It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
Next up, we have another Need for Speed game to review today, and it's none other than Hot Pursuit 2, released on the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube on October 1st, 2002, and the PC version was released on October 21st, 2002. The PS2 version was developed by EA Black Box, and the PC, GameCube, and the Xbox version were developed by EA Seattle, who did the PC ports of many previous Need for Speed games like High Stakes and Need for Speed 3. As a kid, I remember playing this game a lot. However, it wasn't the PS2 version that I played, it was actually the PC version, which was a decent version in its own right. However, years later, once I got the PCX2 to work and playing the PS2 version, it became clear that the PS2 version was very different from the PC version that I used to play as a kid. And spoiler alert, it was actually much better than the PC version in almost everything, gameplay and graphics wise. Anyways, today we'll see if Hot Pursuit 2 did deliver what the fans wanted, or was it a failure. So let's find out in this review. The game starts with an awesome intro that depicts what the game is going to be about, and I gotta say that the intro is freaking bonkers, mostly thanks to the music chosen in this intro going down on it from Hot Action Cop, and it's so freaking nostalgic and awesome to me, easily one of the best intros in the video game ever. Once you go past the title screen, you can choose two modes. Ultimate Racer, which is essentially winning races while being chased by cops, whereas the Championship mode is like Ultimate Racer mode but with no cops. Simple as that. Each mode has 32 events that need to be completed in order to unlock everything, with 30 events being present and the other 2 being unlocked once you complete all the events. The modes have a lot of variety, like there's time trial events, cop chase events, lap knockout events, and even tournaments as well, so you can pretty much see that there's a lot of variety. So what about the gameplay? Well, the gameplay can be summed up in 2 words: absolutely amazing. The gameplay is pretty fast paced and chaotic, especially in the later events where shit gets very insane. Control wise, the play control is pretty solid. It's more of an arcade game than a simulation game, which isn't a bad thing at all. You can accelerate, brake, or even handbrake, the latter being very useful for taking hard tight corners in some tracks. One useful addition that Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 has is that when you press the R2 button, you can send a sort of seeker out of the road, and the camera follows as well, so you can see any upcoming roadblocks and cops, which is very useful given that in some events the cops go all ham on you with roadblocks and spike strips. Using this feature will make you planning ahead your escaping route, which is very useful. And I still wish that this feature should have been available on other Need for Speed games, like the 2010 reboot and Most Wanted as well. It doesn't stop there though. Similar to Need for Speed 3, Hot Pursuit 2 also gives you 2 driving options, Classic and Extreme. Classic makes the cars not prone to oversteer, but limits your cornering skills, whereas the Extreme mode dials up the oversteer, but it doesn't limit your skills in terms of cornering around the track. Me personally, I prefer the Extreme handling mode, while Classic mode is great for newcomers. I feel like it's pretty limited though. I prefer the latter, even though as I said before, it dials up the oversteer, but it also allows you to power slide through tight corners, something that you can't do when using Classic handling. The car AI is no pushover. For the most part, as some in the early events in the game, they are a joke, but once you drive the faster cars in the later events, the AI really gets very aggressive. But that's to be expected given the later events are a force to be reckoned with. Speaking of forces to be reckoned with, the cops AI are really freaking aggressive, even in the earlier events. When using low tier cars, they are proven to be a complete menace and then some. For reference, in the early events, the police use a Ford Crown Victoria, which its top speed is like 130 miles per hour, and I use the Mercedes CL55 AMG, which has a higher top speed than the Crown Victoria, like 155 miles per hour. And even still, the police car still manages to try to go toe-to-toe with me, which adds a lot of tension during the races, and I'm not even exaggerating at that. Oh, and that's not all. The police can also call backup, which if that happens, 90% of the time they will gang up on you and trying to arrest your ass off. But wait, it gets even better. They can also summon roadblocks, which it can be pretty easy to avoid. However, spike strips on the other hand, they are a death sentence. If you touch that shit, it's instantly game over. Well, at least in the PC version that is, since in that version you'll instantly get busted if you touch them. On the PS2 version, you have 3 chances, and if you waste them all, you'll get arrested and then the race is over. So at least the PS2 version is a lot more forgiving in that department. Lastly, the cops can also summon helicopters that can shoot barrels at you that you can stop any racer that hits them. They can be pretty dangerous, not as vicious as the spike strips, but still pretty dangerous. The cops are one of the primary reasons why this game is amazing and fun. The races, especially in the Hot Pursuit mode, can be very tense and pack a lots of adrenaline. And it's why I said this game doesn't pull up any punches in regards to the difficulty. Hot Pursuit 2's car roster for the time when it was released was phenomenal to say the least. There were so many iconic cars in the game, like the Dodge Viper GTS, BMW Z8, Speedster, VX220, Vanquish, Carrera GT, but it's actually the concept version and not the final version, since the final version was released in 2004, and compared to the concept version of it, you can clearly see that the front bumper from the prototype is vastly different from the final version. Obviously that's to be expected when it comes to prototypes, of course. Then we have the Lotus Elise, the Ford Mustang SVT Cobra R, the Holden Coupe GTS, the 360 Spider, and the mighty Murcielago. The OG Murcielago, one of the best Lamborghini cars that they've made. Oh, did I mention that it's on the cover of the game? Because of course it is. I mean, it was 2002, and the Murcielago was produced at that year, and Hot Pursuit 2 was going to be releasing that year as well. So EA decided to actually promote the Murcielago by putting it in the game as well as in the front cover, thus gaining a lot of attention to many Lamborghini fans who wanted to try to drive the new car, and they sure nailed it. Other cars do make a return, like the M5, the Corvette Z06, XKR, Diablo, even though it's not the SV version from the previous games. It's actually the 6.0 VT, which was produced in 2000, and is actually my favorite Diablo version, by the way. The CLK GTR, the 550, and the F50, which did appear in the previous Need for Speed games. In addition to that, we do also have the Need for Speed editions of these cars, which offer improved acceleration and a slightly higher top speed. However, cars like the BMW M5 and the Z8 do not have their Need for Speed versions of themselves for some reason. And last but not least, we also have the Pursuit cars as well. Yes, you can now play as a cop in this game. Although this isn't the first time that you play as a cop in a Need for Speed game. The PC version of Need for Speed 3, as well as High Stakes, let you play as a cop before Hot Pursuit 2 was even a thing. In this part, the PC version has an edge over the PS2 when it comes to how many cop cars there are. The PS2 version has only 5 cop cars, whereas the PC version has a whopping 10 cars, which makes sense since the PC version was released after the PS2 version. Since we're talking about cop cars, I've mentioned that you can play as a cop in this game, and this mode is pretty decent, although not as polished as playing as a cop in the Hot Pursuit reboot that I reviewed a while back. As a cop, you have to capture all the hooligans in a certain amount of time. To arrest them, you have to block them or trying to ram them into a wall, causing them to slow down to a crawl, and they'll all get busted eventually. In addition to this, you can summon roadblocks, spike strips, choppers, and also the ability to boost. Hold on, you can boost when you play as a cop? Ooh, so that's why the AI cops go toe to toe with the player, despite the player having a faster car than the cop cars. Ooh, it all makes sense now. Typical Need for Speed stuff, I guess. So how do you unlock cars? Well, by beating events, of course, for the most part. You see, to unlock some of the cars in the game, you have to accumulate Need for Speed points, and how do you get Need for Speed points, you may ask? Well, to put it bluntly, you get Need for Speed points by being in the first place, reaching top speed, dodging roadblocks, and escaping pursuits. Not only that, but to unlock other cars, you have to complete some tasks, for instance, doing 8 clean laps on a certain track, going first place on a race with advanced difficulty, etc. Hot Pursuit has 15 courses which are divided by 4 environments: Alpine, Desert, Woodland, Tropical, and Mediterranean. Each environment has one point-to-point track which connects the other 2 tracks from that environment. In addition, these tracks also have their reverse versions of themselves to add more content to the game. The PC version has most of the tracks but lacks in desert environment, but it makes up for adding mirror and mirror reverse version of these tracks, which is something that the PS2 version lacks. But what about the tracks? What do I think? Well, they are honestly pretty well designed. Each track is very memorable, and the people from Black Box did everything to make each track very distinct from one another. They look and feel very different in a good way. The attention to detail from the courses are a sight to behold, especially on the PS2 version. They look gorgeous. As for the graphics, for a PS2 game that was released in 2002, Hot Pursuit 2 looks incredibly gorgeous for the time when this game was released in 2002. The car models look very detailed, almost just as gorgeous as the car models from Gran Turismo 3. As I mentioned before, the level of detail from the courses are really high and colorful. I think this game looks just as fantastic as Gran Turismo 3 was, given that GT3 was the most realistic racing game in terms of visuals and presentation when it was released. Not to mention that in terms of graphical leaps from the PS1 to the PS2, the difference is night and day, showcasing the true evolution of graphics at that era. For instance, compared to High Stakes to Hot Pursuit 2, you can clearly see that there's a huge graphical leap between the PS1 and the PS2. With that said, the PS2 version runs at 30 frames per second when running on the original console. Now, while nowadays it can be annoying to play a racing game at that frame rate, however, with the PCX2 you can now even play this game at 60 frames per second and a higher resolution at that. The game's resolution is at between 440p and 480p. However, like I mentioned before, thanks to PCX2, we can play this game at a higher resolution, which is pretty neat. But this leads to another problem. The game runs at a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is very common for many PS2 games. Very few PS2 games like Burnout Revenge, Burnout 3, GT3, and GT4 did support 60:9 aspect ratio, which is common even to this day. However, playing this game on a 60:9 monitor will cause the game to be stretched, which on a casual person they would not notice it. But if they played on a 4:3 monitor, then they would see that playing a 4:3 game on a 60:9 monitor will cause issues. Thankfully, however, the PCX2 community has managed to create a widescreen patch for the game, and the results look pretty good. However, we can go even further beyond. Remember when I said that Hot Pursuit 2 runs at 30 frames per second? Well, turns out that the community also made a 16 frames per second code for the game, which is damn awesome. The difference is day and night. It's worth noting that when using the 60 FPS code, make sure you have a decent CPU to run, otherwise you will get problems with speed. For reference, I have a Ryzen 5 3600 overclocked at 4.4 GHz and runs fine 99% of the time. But then again, this is the PS2 that we're talking about. The PS2, as we all know it, it's a tough console to emulate, just like the Sega Saturn, hence why you need a decent CPU to run at proper speeds. Using this code, combined with the widescreen patch, as well as the ability to upscale the game at a higher resolution, turns the game into a wonderful remaster that we never got. If you want to use the codes, you can download them. The download links are in the description below. Oh, and also make sure you have the NTSC version of the game, because the codes don't work in the PAL version of the game. The sound department in this game is pretty well made. The car engine sounds are pretty good for the time, and they sound different from one another. The cop car shatter is really well made, and it made me feel like I was in the pursuit from the police. Here, I have a load of this.
28th County. In pursuit. Vehicle is a black Opel Speedster.
County Local Patrols. 28 in high-speed pursuit. Vehicle is a black Opel Speedster.
27 County. In pursuit. Vehicle is a green Ford TS50.
County All Patrols. 27 in high-speed pursuit. Vehicle is a green Ford TS50.
46 County. Stopping a vehicle on the wrong side of the fog line.
Copy 46.
46 County. Commencing traffic stop.
I copy 46.
46 County. In pursuit. Vehicle is a blue sports car.
Copy 46.
46 County. Requesting backup. I'm near the lookout. 9 all units. What do we got here? 46 County. I have the subject in sight. I'm near the S-curves.
54-9. He's run the roadblock. 54-9. Permission to set up another roadblock.
Copy 54.
27 County. I have the driver in custody.
Copy 27. County Local Patrols. The chopper is in the air.
As you can see, Black Box really pushed their imagination when implementing the voices from the cops, and it clearly shows by just how much effort they put in when it comes to the implementation of the cop chase voices during the races. This feature can also give you hints like, for instance, They can say whether they're going to summon a roadblock and you have to invade them. This is pretty important, since if you don't listen to the radio, there's a good chance that you'll get screwed, and that's probably mostly your fault. The soundtrack of Hot Pursuit 2 is pretty good as well, with huge bangers such as People That We Love from Bush, Going Down on It from Hot Action Cop, One Little Victory from Rush, and The Wall of Shame from Course of Nature. The game also includes the instrumental version of these songs, which is pretty cool, especially in the Hot Pursuit races. They are used so that the vocals don't interfere with the police radio chatter. So, nice move, Black Box, nice move. All in all, I do think that the sound department is a major step up from the previous games, and Black Box nailed it. So, how good was Hot Pursuit 2 actually? Well, the game is loads of fun to play, and I very mean it. The game has a lot of amazing traits, such as the amazing car roster, the gameplay is pretty addictive and very fun. I've enjoyed this game a lot, playing both as a racer and as a cop, although the latter wasn't as amazing as playing as a racer, but it's not by any means awful. It was pretty decent in its own right, and the tracks as well as the production value in regards to the soundtrack are pretty well made. Graphics wise, it looks pretty good, even though the 30 frames per second thing can be a burden for some people. However, the 60 FPS code, widescreen patches, as well as upscaling the graphics using the PCX2 makes the game's graphics more palatable for both fans and emulation enthusiasts such as myself, turning the game into a remastered version that we never got. As a result of those excellent traits, Hot Pursuit 2, especially the PS2 version, was very well received by both critics and fans alike, and it also got an award from the Interactive Achievement Awards for the Console Racing Game of the Year. So great job, Black Box and EA. My final grade to Hot Pursuit 2 is an A-. It would have gotten an A, but the cop chase mode, at least in my opinion, kinda holds it back, but it's still an awesome game nevertheless. Overall, long story short, Hot Pursuit 2 is clearly not only one of the best Need for Speed games in the franchise, but also one of the best racing games on the PS2. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you liked this video, make sure you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more new content, and let me know what you think about this game. Did you enjoy it? Did you not like it? Whatever it is, let me know in the comments below. And also make sure to follow me on Twitter as well. And that's all, folks. See you next time.